Git. What is Git and why Git? Git is a widely used distributed version control system. Git is used by developers to coordinate and develop software collaboratively. A project will have many source files, and each source file will have contribution from many developers. In order to track the changes that are done on a source file and then review the changes that are done to a source file, and then to maintain the integrity of the changes, to track all these things, a version control system is required. And Git is widely used for this purpose. Git was written in the year 2005. So Git was developed in the year 2005 by Linus Torvalds. GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, and Gerrit make use of Git. Gerrit is a web-based code review tool which is integrated with Git and built on top of Git. I'll show you how to use Git on a Windows system and also on Linux system. For the Windows system, first let's download something called Git Bash. Looks like I have already downloaded it, so I will not be downloading it again. So I'll use the so I will use the one which is already downloaded. I'm going with all defaults. I didn't choose anything that is different from the default while installing Git. Git bash installation is complete. So here is a directory. What I do is I do a right click and then I click on open git bash here. Yeah, here we can execute all the bash commands. I'll say print working directory. So I'm inside a directory git, which is on desktop. Let me clone a repo. So for this, you would have to copy this first command, clone with uh, commit message hook, clone with commit message hook. So you would have to click here and then copy, and then you would have to paste here. I'm using this repo for the training purpose. So let's check uh, the contents of this source repo. So we can see here there are many directories, and then okay, so and then there are a lot of files here. So I downloaded uh, all these files. I got these files from a repo which is hosted on GitHub. The repo is I2C tools. I just mm, cloned the I2C tools repo from GitHub, and then I pushed the same thing onto this tester app repo for demonstration of the Git usage. So now you know how to clone source. Means uh, on remote, on remote code was hosted. The project code was hosted using git clone command. We can get the code into our local workspace. So using git clone command, we can get the project source code, which is hosted on remote into our local workspace. So now I will show how to do the same on Linux system. So I'm using this application in order to connect to a Linux system using SSH. You can use Git either on Windows system or on Linux system. So I already showed you how to clone source onto a Windows system using git bash. Now I've logged in into a Linux system. So what I will do, I will show how to clone. So you would have to do the same thing, copy the command and then paste it over here. And then if it asks for the password, what you need to do is go to click on this on the top right corner. There is settings. You should click on this and then you can see your SSH keys on the left hand side. This SSH keys, click on that and then you would have to click on this generate new password. I would not be clicking on that because I have already generated the password. So if you click on this generate new password, a password will be generated and then you would have to copy it and store it somewhere like this. Can you see here? This is my password. Okay, I copied and then I provide the password over here. Okay. Okay, I got the same source code on Linux system. I'm more comfortable working on a Linux system compared to Windows. So I will be using the Linux system, but whatever the commands that I run, the git commands that I run on the Linux system, you can run the same git commands over here on the Windows system. The same commands apply over here as well on the Windows system. And then some global configurations need to be done for in order to push the changes that you make onto the remote again. So before that, let's take a look at this picture. Uh, so at the bottom right corner, you can see the remote repository. So the remote repository is this remote repository can be hosted over GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket or gerrit. And then first time in order to get the code, the source code which is hosted on the remote, what we do, we use git clone command. And then using git clone, we get the source code onto our local workspace. So this rectangle which you see in maybe light green color, this would be your local workspace. So you do a git clone, you get the source code into your local system or local workspace. And then what you do, you make changes to the source code. You add new files and then uh, you change some part of the code in a existing file. So after you make the changes, you use git add command and then the changes move to a area called staging area, and then you do a git commit. So git commit is nothing but uh, mm, committing the changes to your local repository. And then after the changes are put into the local repository, you use git push command, to submit the changes for review. Once you submit the changes for review, it will be reviewed and merged. Or you may be, uh, uh, or there may be review comments asking for some changes. You would have to, if that is the case, then you would have to make those changes and submit a additional patch set. And then again, it will be reviewed. Once it is approved, it will be merged. It will be merged to the remote repository. And then in order to get the latest changes, that are on the remote, you would use git pull command. So we will learn all these commands, the subcommands of git, in the next session. So I told you about uh, .gitconfig file. So in my workspace, there is one .gitconfig file which I have created. I'll open. Let's take a look at it. I'm comfortable with VI editor. I would be using VI editor. So VI followed by the file name. VI followed by the file name opens the file for us. So this .gitconfig file will be in your home directory. This tilde followed by backward slash signifies home directory, and dot means this .gitconfig is a hidden file. Okay, I open this. So you can see email, my email ID, my name, and then the editor that is to be used with Git. So initially this file will not be there. You would have to execute few commands and prepare the .gitconfig file. So you open a file using vi by using the command vi followed by the file name. And if you want to quit, you press the escape key followed by colon and then Q for quit, and then you hit enter. I was okay. Uh, and then let me show you the commands that you would have to run. So gitconfig --global core.editor vim. This command will choose vim as the editor for Git. And then this command will add your username. And then this command will add your email ID. You would have to run these commands with appropriate name and email ID. Over here, you would have to run the commands on this terminal. So if you run those three commands, those commands will prepare the .gitconfig file for you. And then I have a Linux repo which has been downloaded. Here, there's one more hidden file called gitignore. This is a hidden file gitignore. So I opened the gitignore file. Means, see, the binaries, the executables will be generated when we build the software. So there is no need to track the changes related to the binaries. So what we do, we specify the file names that need not have to be tracked for changes in this .gitignore file. So this would ensure that in our project repo, source code repo, the binaries are not tracked. That is, the changes on the binaries are not tracked because there is no need for it. You can see here, right? Star.o, star.so, star.elf, star.patch. So there is no need to track these files because they are binaries. So you can see here there are 163 entries. So all the files with specific extensions which are put in these, all the file extensions that are put in this .gitignore file will not be tracked by Git. So you would have to add one such .ignore file for your repo so that you can uh, exclude the files that are need not be tracked. And then, yeah, let's see what are the subcommands of Git. There is a use list version, which is used to check the version of the Git. Help is there. And then there are a lot of options. And then those were all command line options of Git. So these are the so the ones which we see here, right? Hyphen version, hyphen help, hyphen capital C. All these are command line options. Whereas these are Git commands. Git add, git am, git archive, git branch, git clone. We already use this git clone in order to clone a repository into a local workspace. So by cloning, we get source code which is hosted on GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket or gerrit onto our local machine, onto our local workspace. So there are a lot of Git commands. So we will be learning about these in the next session. So out of all these commands, only few are used to interact with the remote. You can see over here, right? So the uh, your local laptop or a workstation, that would be that is where you clone the source and get the by which you get the source code, which is on a remote repository uh, like GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, or Gerrit. So most of the commands you execute in your local workspace. We saw a lot of Git commands. So most of them, 99% of them, you use it on your local workspace, on your local system. Very few Git commands you use in order to interact with the remote repo, which is hosted on either GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket or Gerrit. So git clone, git fetch, git pull, git push. So these are the commands that you use in order to interact with the remote repo that is hosted on the on either Gerrit or GitHub or GitLab or Bitbucket. The remaining commands, 99% of the Git commands, you use it on your local repo or local machine. So we chose Vim as the editor. So let's learn a few simple commands on how to use Vim editor. Okay. Uh, in order to open a file, you use vi followed by say sample.txt. So I opened it for the first time. If you press the key I, you will enter the insert mode. So in insert mode, uh, you can type in whatever you want. And then say if you want to save and exit, what do? You press escape followed by colon, W for write. Write means save, followed by quit. So I'm writing and I'm quitting. So the next time I open the same file, I see that the previous changes exist. Now, if I want to exit, so if I am not in the insert mode, I can just press colon and quit. So there is nothing to be saved. I just quit. So if I am in the insert mode, then I would have to press escape followed by colon and then quit. We'll close this session. In the next session, we will learn most of the git commands. So here are the git commands. So we will be learning these git commands in the next session. Thank you all.